yesterday's news.
Hello and welcome to Old News, the programme and podcast which looks at news stories of the day through the papers of yesterday. We're back to normal now, and Jurby Airport has been in the news stream of recent days after a master plan which shows it possibly expanding and being used instead of Ronsway, etc., came as a bit of a surprise. So how much has Jurby Airport featured in the news streams over the years? A reasonable amount, one might think. Beginning, of course, with when it was first built. Mona's Herald, Tuesday, September the 20th, 1938. The Jurby Airport all ready to begin work. Operations to level the site at Jurby for the RAF airport are likely to begin in a day or so, we are told. Practically all the land required has now been taken over. The purchase preliminaries, it is understood, have all been completed, and a few claims for compensation by tenants of the land outstanding last week have been settled. Captain Dawson of the Air Ministry and the Clerk of the Works are on the spot, and when the necessary excavating machinery arrives, the work will be pushed on with all haste. Bricklayers are in request for the erection of offices and other buildings. Start of the war, of course. It was important. As we hear in the Times of Sunday, or was that Saturday, April the 22nd, 1939. More land for Jurby Airport, small coastal sites for signal stations, motor patrol boat to be housed at Ramsey. Tynwald on Tuesday authorised the government property trustees to acquire compulsorily, on behalf of the Air Ministry, a number of plots of land in Ballaugh, Jurby, Andreas and Bride, and 2 parcels of land in Ramsey, required in connection with the Jurby Aerodrome. These powers are given under an amended Government Property Trustees Act passed last year, whereby the trustees were enabled to obtain land for the service not only of the Isle of Man Government, but of any department of His Majesty's Government. This course was taken in preference to accomplishing the same object by an Act of Parliament applying to the Isle of Man. The Attorney-General said it was necessary to have 7 or 8 small stations for flag signalling, signalling by light, and the taking of records by the squadrons, and also for warning shipping which might be in the neighbourhood when practising was going on. They will be large enough to accommodate small hutments, flagpoles, and so on. In addition, said the Attorney-General, a site was required for certain land experiments, and this would be definitely closed to the public. It would be wired and warning notices would be exhibited all around. It would be closed because it was a dangerous place. Except for this piece of land, the Attorney-General said there would be no interference with public rights. The Air Ministry had chosen the most desolate and least used portion of the coast that they could find. In Ramsey, the land required was a plot belonging to the Manx Salt and Alkali Company for the erection of a boat shed and a slipway, and an unbuilt-on plot on the North Shore to house the officers and men working the boats. The boats would be fast motor vessels used for patrolling the area of practising and warning ships when operations were about to begin or indeed cease. Under another topic called Landowner Asks £5,700, not insignificant in those days, 17 or 18 persons were interested in the properties which it was sought to acquire. Some of the plots were very small, some were only required to provide a cycle track to the signalling stations. In the vast majority of cases, compulsory powers would not be necessary, but the matter was urgent and they could not run any risk. The Air Ministry had always tried to do full justice and more to the landowners, and had purchased the whole land wanted for the aerodrome itself by negotiation, to the entire satisfaction of everyone. But 1 or 2 owners had sent letters which indicated that compulsion would be necessary. One gentleman, a portion of whose barren, sandy land it was proposed to take, had claimed £5,700 for land which probably didn't cost him as many pence. "I don't know," said the Attorney-General, "whether he was pulling my leg." Mr. Daniel Tier said the £5,700 was asked not for a small portion but the whole farm. Answering questions, the Attorney-General said the line of the proposed stations would be from Corvallar, Ballaugh to the Point of Ayr. There was no idea of a cycle track right around the coast. There would be no interference with bathing or picnicking except at one spot, and no cottages would be closed. In the Ramsey Courier of Friday, February the 17th, 1939, we're told that Jurby Airport, a good thing for the island, Wing Commander Quine's interesting speech. A son of Canon Quine of Lonnon, Wing Commander S.L. Quine MC, who commands an RAF squadron at Honiton, flew to the island on Wednesday in a two-engined RAF bomber and landed shortly after noon at Ronaldsway. The machine carried 3 other pilots and a crew of 2. It was one of the biggest machines to have used at Ronaldsway Airport. RAF men kept guard on the machine all Wednesday night as it could not be accommodated in the hangars. Wing Commander Quine was one of the principal guests at the annual dinner of the Comrades of the Royal Air Forces Association at the majestic Lido Hotel on Wednesday evening. Replying to the toast of the association, he said the Isle of Man branch was thriving and doing a great deal of good, but it now had the opportunity of doing still more. This summer, the RAF station at Jurby would be opened, and then on, they would have in the island practically continuously from 30 to 50 officers and 400 to 600 men. That meant there would be an opportunity for the branch to welcome these newcomers and improve the liaison, which already existed between all the serving members of the RAF and the past members. He thought it a very good thing for the Isle of Man generally, and that this station was being established. Quite apart from the social aspect, it would bring to the people of the Isle of Man a realisation that although the island might appear to be far from the dictators bombing aircraft, if there was a war, we should all be in it. True words never spoken, one imagines. In the Ramsey Courier of Friday, February the 13th, 1948, so a few years after the war now, Jurby Airport future, no developments. There have been some persistent rumours abroad lately about the future of the RAF station at Jurby, including one that the station is to be fully reoccupied during the coming summer. There's always rumours about Jurby, it seems. From inquiries we've made, there appears to be no foundation for these statements. Nothing, at any rate, is known of these suggested developments at Jurby, and the future of the station is still unknown. In the same year, the Ramsey Courier, Friday, August the 6th, passenger planes at Jurby Airport. Thick fog reduced visibility at Ronaldsway below safety limits on Saturday morning, and Jurby Airport, where visibility was normal, was employed as a civil airport, the scheduled services being diverted there. The RAF station, at present reduced to a care and maintenance basis, is fully equipped with runways and radio equipment and successfully handled the heavy air traffic, staff being transferred there from Ronaldsway. Flying was resumed from Ronaldsway when the fog cleared later in the day. On Saturday, 361 visitors came by air and 338 left. On Sunday, the planes brought 331 and took back 280. And I'm sure that carried on for some time. I have a recollection of flying out from Jurby to Blackpool on a Viscount aircraft in the 1960s. Do tell me if I'm wrong. The Isle of Man Examiner, Friday, August the 17th, 1951. A jet attack on Jurby Airport. Lorks. Then underneath we read, Manx Regiment in training. A mock attack on Jurby Airport by Vampire jet aircraft of the 502 Auxiliary Squadron RAF from Belfast will be part of an exercise in which the 3 batteries of the 515 Isle of Man LAA Regiment RATA are to take part on Sunday. The Manx Regiment will defend the airport from the attack and also engage in firing practice at targets towed at sea around 2,500 yards from the Jurby coast. The exercise will be the final pre-camp training of the Manx Regiment, who go to the annual training camp at Stiff Key, Norfolk, from September the 15th to 19th. In the Isle of Man Times of 1952, we hear how William Kane of Ballacurry Cottage, Summerhill, Jurby, stated to be employed at Jurby Airport, was before the High Bailiff at Ramsey on Wednesday charged with driving a motorcycle under the influence of drink and not having a driving licence. Oh dear. In this case, the statement of William Patrick Meadow View, St Jude's, showed that witnesses walking along the Sulby-St Jude's Road on the afternoon of August the 9th, approaching the crossroads, when the defendant overtook him and on turning left started to wobble. When he, the witness, got to the corner, he found the defendant lying in the gutter with the machine on top of him, and he had a wound on the side of his head. After asking, "Where am I?" the defendant drove on to Sulby Bridge in the opposite direction from which he came. PC Cecil Moore said he met the defendant on the road after having been informed there was an accident, and when the defendant slowed down he was erratic and went from side to side. He seemed stupefied, was under the influence of drink and kept repeating, "We are drunk, we know we are drunk," and stating that he had some rum and this had caused his condition. It was stated that Dr. Patton examined the defendant and, wait for it, found that he was drunk, and the wound on his head had no bearing on his condition. Sergeant Kinraid corroborated the evidence of the defendant's condition. Replying to the High Bailiff, the defendant said he did not have a lot to drink, but he had nothing to eat during the day, and earlier had rushed into Ramsey to have his driving test. All makes sense, doesn't it? The High Bailiff said he had threatened to send drunken drivers to jail because the roads were dangerous enough without that sort of thing, but this was the defendant's first offence, and he'd be fined £20 and would be allowed 3 months in which to pay it, the alternative being 2 months imprisonment without hard labour. He would be disqualified from driving for 12 months and, on the lesser charge of not having a licence, be fined 10 shillings. He was disqualified. The Isle of Man Times of Saturday, June the 19th, 1954, 3,000 people expected at the airports. And there's a big picture on top of Ray Am on his senior Norton during the practice. It was TT period, of course, June the 19th. Despite early morning mist and low cloud base, aircraft were landing and taking off continuously at both Ronaldsway and Jurby airports. Hundreds of people passed quickly through to waiting buses and were whisked away to various parts of the TT course. An official at Ronaldsway stated on Thursday, "We expect to handle around 3,000 people." Jurby Airport was open at 5:45 a.m. and will close at 9 p.m. Ronaldsway will open at 5 a.m. and close at, wait for it, midnight. Don't think that would happen today. It's expected that there will be between 250 and 300 movements. And the weather? The Met Man was being quiet, but an official said, expect some low cloud. They probably got it. And finally, we'll go back to the Ramsey Courier of Thursday, March the 25th, 1948, a few years after the war. Lost from Jurby Airport on Sunday, March the 21st, a model aeroplane. Last seen heading towards the point of air. Finder, please return to the nearest police station. I wonder if they got it back. Jurby Airport in the news now. It's been in the news quite a bit over the years since it was first constructed for the Second World War, when it seems there might have been a little bit of disagreement about the plans then. Either way, Jurby Airport was news then, news now. It was old news. Until next week, cheerio. You're gonna be yesterday's news.